Hello and welcome to Author to Author. I am your host Jasveer, and in this episode, I have Belynda Thomas with me. She is the author of Secrets and Silence, which is available on Amazon and Amazon Kindle. She's a blogger and a member of Toastmasters. We're going to talk about what her method of writing is and talk more about blogging with her. Belynda, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Jasveer.
So, Belinda, tell our listeners something about you, your life as an author, and what else do you do apart from writing?
Well, I keep body and soul together because that's important. And I think most of us writers have to have like a day job, something that brings in the money. I have a dog and I love to walk her, and I have two grown-up children, so the heavy lifting of motherhood is behind me, which actually gives me the time to write. And I love just all the things that everybody likes. And blogging takes up a fair amount of time. And Toastmasters is one of the great self-development programs that I have been part of. And I think that it has given me the courage to put myself out there as an author.
You do a lot of things together. So, in the helm of all the things that you do, what does writing mean to you? I mean, why do you write?
I have always written. I started a journal from about the age of 15, and I have kept it over all of these years. So even when I was not writing fiction, I've always written. And what it does is it allows me to put my thoughts out on paper so that I can understand what I'm thinking and what I'm going through, and perhaps try to understand other people's motivations as well. And then I've brought that into my fiction writing as I cherry pick from lives that I see and amalgamate everything into character, circumstances, and plot lines.
Okay, wonderful. So, what is the source for, source of inspiration for writing? I mean, why do you write?
I think one of the reasons that I write is I saw people who went through really, really hard times, or I knew that they had, and yet they were able to build positive lives. And then there were other people who didn't seem to go through even such hard times, who never were able to build such a positive life. And so with my writing, I've tried to make sense in my own head. What is the catalyst that helps us to take our lemons and make lemonade, or just be overcome by the catastrophes of life?
To see somebody who's gone through a lot of trauma and then overcome as a winner in life. And I can think of none other than Terry Fox. He's kind of a Canadian superhero to me, who even after losing his leg to cancer, he ran across creating awareness about cancer back in 80s, when virtually people were not even aware of what cancer was. So you're absolutely right. It's truly motivational to see somebody who's gone through so much trauma make a difference. Yeah, that's amazing. So, Belinda, tell us about your book, Secrets and Silence.
Well, my book, Secrets and Silence, is about a woman who gets a chance to parent the child at age 15 that she gave up for adoption as a baby. And of course, the 15-year-old is a complete and total mess because of all that has gone on in her life. And her mother had always made peace with her decision by saying, well, she had a two-parent family and that would be better. And then, of course, she finds out that it was not better at all. And it's not just their relationship, it's also the whole family, the birth mother's sister and her mother and her father, and all of the challenges and the lies and the secrets that go on in a family when people are doing things they shouldn't be doing and pretending that they're someone that they're not.
Right. Can you share some of your favorite lines from the book?
Well, yes, I can. Thank you very much. A voice she hadn't heard in 15 years said, "Is this Aurora Williamson?" Robert Payne adopted her daughter, but now wanted to give her back. After she hung up, all she could remember was her daughter wasn't fitting in as well as he'd hoped. His second wife was pregnant, and Tori couldn't live with her adoptive mother. His ex-wife Candy, for reasons he didn't disclose. Tori was getting in with a dangerous crowd. He didn't know what else to do, or who else to call. Was he saying it was her, or Children's Aid? If she told him no, what would happen to her daughter? If she said yes, could her family handle the truth? She tossed and turned all night. What was her daughter like? Could they develop a relationship now?
Right. Okay. And which brings me to a very important question, do you also aspire to do some bits and pieces of screenwriting, maybe write for movies, maybe write for shows? I know of a few authors, who write their books in the form of, let's say, a script, so that it can be easily adapted into a movie or maybe web series. So do you also aspire to do that?
I haven't thought about it. I would love the opportunity.
Yeah. Okay, great. So when we talk about secrets and silence, what was the most difficult part of your, storytelling? I mean, in terms of just the specific book.
I think the most difficult part for me was the ending because
Hmm.
I didn't quite know how to wrap up all my stories because I've got about 5 character lines, storylines in there. And my editor told me that I didn't have a long enough ending. And then I started doing research, and it seems that indie authors especially do better if they have a series or sequels to their novels. And is when I got the aha moment that it was no wonder I was having trouble wrapping it all up, because it actually is going to be 2 more books.
Wow, wow. So tell us about your future projects. What is the future of Secrets and Silence?
Well, I'm working on the sequel right now, which is going to be Secrets and Sorrow. And I'm hoping to have that published this fall.
Hmm.
And then I'm going to work on the third one. And I'm also working with an illustrator on a series of children's books.
Wow, wonderful. Illustrations is something that, really I'm also keen on. And I think that's the next level of sort of being an author. I think that's a wonderful, wonderful options. So let's, when you look at your entire writing process, forget that you're an author, let's look at blogging and writing in general. What do you think is the most difficult part of the writing process?
The most difficult part for me was actually creating a habit of writing. My husband brought home a laptop in the year 2000, and every night when I put the kids to bed, I sat down at the kitchen table, I started to write. I kept a log of when I started, when I finished, and how much I wrote. And it wasn't important how much I wrote. What was important is that I did it almost every day, and that created the habit. And it's the
Right.
same with blogging. When I started blogging, I wrote a post almost every day till I got to 500 posts. And now I've cut back to 2 posts a week.
True, true. I think that is so meaningful. If you like something, you must do it regularly. If you're passionate about something, you do it regularly so that it becomes your habit. And I think truly practice makes a person perfect. That's so true about this. So, is there anything specific that you require in your writing space that motivates you?
I think what I need is, we have a home business, and I tried writing on the business computer, but I couldn't get out of the business headspace. So what I need, and I have my own room with my own computer, and I have a wall of books behind me, and when I sit down at that computer, I'm in writer headspace, and it just starts to flow, because it seems that it puts me in that right headspace. So that's what I need. Something that makes me think, okay, this is what I'm doing now, and my mind shifts and starts to do it.
Okay. And can you write anywhere, or are there very specific places wherein you can concentrate and then get ideas?
I think I could perhaps write anywhere, but I think it would take me a while before I turn that space into the same thing that I have in my writing room. So, and my writing room is so convenient. I get up in the morning, I grab a coffee, I go into my room, I write until about 8:30 when I get ready for our regular business. So, it would be much more difficult for me if I wanted to change my writing space because I have it so that it works for me, it works for my time frame, it works for everyone else in the house, and my dog can sit on a couch in my room as my muse. So it's
That's a
a
handy
it's a good
motivation.
setup.
That's a handy motivation. Right. Okay. So going back to the writing process, what usually comes to you first, the plot or the characters?
I think the plot comes to me first, and then as I write my first draft, and I'm a bit of a plotter pantster kind of writer because I don't actually know where it's going to go, and yet I know that I have certain things that need to happen. And then when I get to the edit, I kind of add things and change things. And so my mother has read this book about 4 times, and it has changed with each iteration that she has read because that's what you do. You just add and subtract and develop. But
Yeah.
character and plot, I think I developed those quite closely together.
Right. That is probably the most complicated part about writing something. Every time you read it, every time you review it, you get new ideas. Maybe you want to change it. So, tell our listeners here, and every aspiring author wants to know about it. When is that point when you, as an author, decide that, what, that's it. No more new ideas. This is it.
Well, as I was writing, my son would pop his head in my writing room and he would go, "Mom, are you going to publish that?" And at first I just shrugged my shoulders and then I would say, "Oh, I think I will." And so then he started saying, well, when? And then he started saying, "Well, an author needs a blog. You should set up a blog." And finally, I got to the point starting the blog in 2018, and I set a date of May 29th, 2020 to publish my book. But of course, when May 29th came, I only was just kind of finished my final draft, and then I was still going through and looking for punctuation errors, and it didn't actually get published until August 29th. But I did set a date, and I did find that I was going through and I would change punctuation and then I would read through it again and I would change the punctuation back. I thought, okay, I must be really close here.
Right. So, how did you come up with the title of your book?
I had several working titles as I wrote it, and I had made up a cover with the title, and I wasn't very happy with it. And then I started thinking about titles I liked, and I really like Pride and Prejudice as a title. And I thought, what I like about it is I like the P and the P. And I thought, well, what could I come up with? What 2 words could I come up with that would succinctly say everything I want to say and be that kind of a title? And I don't know, I think Secrets and Silence, it just popped into my head one day, and I said, okay, that's it. It encapsulates everything I'm talking about. And I had a photograph that I was going to use for the cover that I thought the words worked with.
Hmm.
And this was at the very end of my writing of Secrets and Sorrow. But it
Oh, okay.
seems that if we keep going, it's like things fall in place. It's serendipity in action. We don't even know. We were asking questions. It's like our mind is working, and all of a sudden, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, there it is. The aha moments. They just keep coming.
True, true, true. So, how long have you been writing? When we talk about writing, blogging, or anything, how long have you been writing?
I would say I have been seriously writing since about 2020. And the first novel that I wrote is a convoluted mess of about 150,000 words. And I'm very proud of it, even though it will never, ever, I'm sure, see the light of day, because I went from start to actually finishing it. I mean, if I edited it, it would be completely changed, but it's actually 250 words of one story printed in a binder. And so that was the beginning. I had started off and on over the years, but 2020 was actually when I would say I became a writer.
Wow. Okay. So now that you're a published author, what is your favorite and the least favorite part of publishing, and what would you want to improve for your future books or change, sort of as a publishing process?
My favorite part is probably everyone's favorite part was holding my book and saying, "Oh my gosh, I created this and it looks pretty good." And my least favorite, the part I worried about the most, well, I was very intimidated about actually self publishing, but I found when I actually went to do it that it went quite easily. But then, of course, once you've published, you've got all the publication and publicity that you're going to try to drum up. And I found that intimidating as well, but I think the more I do it, I will start to enjoy that as well. So the part that I would change is I'm only published on Amazon right now, and of course there are other platforms, Kobo being one, and 25% I understand of the Canadian market, ebooks at least, are bought on Kobo.
Hmm.
So that I'm thinking, there doesn't seem to be a definitive answer on whether it is better to go wide, stay with Amazon with the Kindle Unlimited, but I may very well go wide with my next book.
Okay, but I know what you're talking about, the feeling of holding your own work in your hand. Uh, I think any given day I would prefer to hold a paperback rather than read an ebook of my own work. I think that's me. Maybe I'm biased, but I surely prefer paperback. What do you prefer, paperback or ebook?
I prefer paperbacks, and I think most of my readers have bought paperbacks. I haven't sold as many ebooks as I have paperbacks.
Yeah, I think there was a time about 3, 4 years ago when people had stopped buying paperback and they preferred ebook, but then that time has sort of come back again. People have started again buying paperback books. Yeah, so the market is back. And Belinda, what do you do when you're sort of not writing?
Well, I take my dog for walks, and gardening is going to start happening soon. And well, I think I have a bit of a green thumb, so I love to get out there. I love to plant. I'm not so good at tending necessarily, but I love to get out there in the spring and plant.
Okay.
So that's something that I'm looking forward to. And I love to read. I think most of us who are writers do.
Yeah. It looks like a beautiful summer up ahead. I'm sure you'll have fun time gardening. Right. So, Belinda, which writers have inspired you? What does, author Belinda Thomas read when she's not writing?
I read a wide variety of authors, and I'm a member of a book club. So what's really great about that is people introduce you to authors which I would not have found on my own, and now I'm trying to introduce them to indie authors. But I think Margaret Atwood, and it's not that I'm such a lover of her books per se. She writes well, but what I love about Margaret Atwood is she has put everything that she puts into her book. There is some semblance of truth to that having happened in the world. And I think I've tried to do that myself. So it isn't made up per se as it is taken and then moved into a plot. And Danielle Steele, because she is a master plotter,
Hmm.
And Laura Ingalls Wilder, I read her books as a kid, and I loved the idea that she wrote her family stories, and she didn't start at a young age writing. So and there's like Jordan Peterson. I love his books. He's who I'm listening to on my walks right now. So it's and self-help books are probably what I read the most, as opposed to novels.
Right. Wonderful. And Belinda, how often do you write?
Almost every morning. I my goal is to get up at 6 o'clock and whirl and twirl around, grab a coffee, sit down at my writing desk, and write till about 8:30.
Wow. So you are a very disciplined writer, right? You set targets for writing every day?
I I didn't. I have been pretty good about the writing every day, but when I wrote Secrets and Silence, I didn't have a goal or anything. But for Secrets and Sorrow, I did. I set a goal. I said I want to be able to write it in a year, and we'll see if that happens. I set up a goal of when to have my first draft done, because what I've learned is if you set a goal, at least you have something to hit for. And if you don't set a goal, you can be like it took me from 2012 to 2020 to write and publish Secrets and Silence. And I know part of that was just me getting okay with saying I'm an author. So that was a big part of my growth process. So now I'm over that, and it's just writing, and I'm trying to set goals and make it happen at a much more a faster clip.
Okay. And what's your if you had that one message for the young and aspiring authors who wish to pursue writing as a career, what would that message be?
The first thing I would tell them is write. Find a place, a time. Maybe you can't write every day. It might not fit into your schedule, but try and at least write and find your voice and hone what you're doing and make it as good as it can be before you start thinking you're going to publish. Like, do your own editing, not necessarily that you should only self-edit, but you should edit it as much as you can before you start telling people, here, have a look at this. And then, when you have it done, you need to start thinking, okay, am I going to try and traditionally publish, or am I going to be an indie author? And if you're going to be an indie, there's a lot of people out there who are willing to help you for a price. And I'm not saying it's not worth it, but make sure you know what you're getting for what they're giving you. Because there's a lot of people who think they're getting something and they're not. And the other thing I would say is, indie publishing, a lot of people think, well, oh, now you could never be traditionally published because you've indie published, but it isn't true. Many authors that we really look up to and respect and would like to emulate first published independently. So we can be a hybrid of indie publishing and traditionally publishing. We can move from one to the other. And indie publishing, I think, for a lot of us, gives us a chance to create a catalog of work and create a readership so that we are viable to the traditionally published publishers.
I think you've explained it in very simple language. There are a lot of myths, apprehensions surrounding is indie publishing good or is traditional publishing good, or if I'm an indie author, can I move to being a traditionally published author or not? I think you've explained it really well. I'm sure the tips are going to be useful for a lot of young and aspiring authors who are looking to publish their first book. And something that you've said very rightly, indie publishing costs money, so choose wisely how you spend your money. Is it going to be a majority for publishing, or are you looking to spend more money on marketing? So make a plan depending upon the genre of your book and of course your pocket. What works for me may not work for you, and what worked for Belinda may not work for many of us. So choose as per your own pocket and then make a plan. and decide how you want to spend your money on indie publishing. But then, yeah, it's there. You can choose that. When a reader sort of picks up a book, he or she doesn't care if it's a indie published book or from a traditional publisher. So as long as your material is good, your cover page is attractive, people are going to buy your book. Right, Belinda. Thank you so much for taking time out to talk to me today. I've enjoyed the conversation, and I'm sure our listeners have also enjoyed our conversation, and it's going to be very useful for the young and aspiring authors. Thank you so much for taking time out.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I have really enjoyed it. I think you've asked some really great questions, and I look forward to watching some of your podcasts. I've watched a couple, and I really enjoyed them.
Right. Thank you so much, Belinda. Guys, you can reach Belinda on belindasbooks.com. That's her blog wherein she publishes regularly. You can also contact her or reach out to her through the Amazon Central Author Center profile. Her book Secrets and Silence is available on Amazon in paperback and ebook format. Grab your copies now. Right, guys. So, thank you so much for taking time out to listen to us. I hope you've enjoyed the conversation and you've learned a lot from the conversation. I will be back with another author very soon. Till that time, take care and have a great day. Thank you.